Hey everybody, welcome to today's screencast on the 11th and 12th chapters of Sefer Yehoshua, where we'll talk about the conquest of the northern kingdom. Last we studied together, the Givonim found themselves under attack by 5 neighboring kings who were upset that the Givonim had signed a peace treaty with the Jewish people. These are the kings of Yerushalayim and Hebron, Eglon, Lachish, and Yarmut. And even though the Givonim acted deceitfully and tricked their way into joining the Jewish people, in truth, Yehoshua really shouldn't have accepted them into the nation since they were from the Chivi region that was supposed to be conquered. Still, Yehoshua and the Jewish people honor the treaty and come to the defense of the Givonim, aided by some miraculous hail that Hashem causes to fall upon their enemies, and aided by Yehoshua, who causes the sun to stand in place, Shemesh begivon dom, V'yareach be'emek ayalon, not wanting the Jewish people to fight on Shabbat. Yehoshua literally holds time still on Friday afternoon so that the Jewish people can finish fighting before it actually turns to Shabbat. So at this point, the Jewish people have conquered the southern region and the 5 kings who presided there, and this allows them to turn their attention to the north, where they'll have to challenge some very tough opponents led by the king of Chatzor. His name was Yavin, and he puts together a group of neighboring nations to fight against the Jewish people. That's the nation of Madon and Shimron and Achshaf. And these 4 kings fight against Yehoshua near the waters of Merom, which is a well-known city, especially from some events that take place every year there on Lag BaOmer. Just by the way, if you look to your upper right-hand portion of the screen, Har Harmon is still to this day a very popular winter resort in Israel. Anyways, this battle takes place near Merom, and without any miracles, just Hashem's help, the Jewish people are able to conquer all of these nations, Madon, Achshaf, and Shimron. But interestingly, Hashem tells Yehoshua to burn the city of Chatzor to the ground. Even though the Jewish people were allowed to take spoils from all the other cities, they pretty much left the cities alone. They killed everyone, and they left the cities desolate and unoccupied. But the city of Chatzor was completely burned to the ground. Why do you think that is? Of all the places to conquer, Yehoshua specifically is commanded to burn the city of Chatzor to the ground so that nothing remains. Why do you think that is? Why don't you go ahead and pause the screencast for a moment, think about that question. We'll talk about the answer when we get back together in class. Once you think about that for a little bit, why don't you go ahead and continue playing the screencast, where we'll learn about the next steps in the northern conquest. So once the Jewish people are successful in the first effort to conquer the north, they turn their attention to the remaining areas of the northern region, which is occupied by these Anakim, these giants, actual giants, people of tremendous size, who we've read about before in the Torah, but this is the first time we read about them in the Nevi'im. The areas that they conquer, the areas of the Anakim, are Anav and Devir and Hebron, a well-known city that we've studied previously back in the Torah. And so Yehoshua, with help from Hashem, is able to conquer these 3 regions that were ruled by giants. But he leaves this area of Aza, Gat, and Ashdod behind, where the giants, the Anakim, remain. So that area remains unconquered. And it's interesting, especially the area of Gat is a place that we're going to learn about, well, not this year together, but maybe in the future in Sefer Shmuel, where a well-known giant, Goliath, is summoned to fight against David, and we all know how that ends. David is successful in conquering Goliath, but Goliath comes from this area of Gat, so it's interesting that it's mentioned here. Oftentimes, cities that are mentioned in one place in the Navi come back to be focused upon in other areas. But that pretty much brings to a close the 11th and 12th chapters. We do need to pay some attention still to some questions that emerge from our study. The Navi tells us that Yehoshua is praised for doing exactly what Hashem tells him to do. Why should that be? Shouldn't he do what he's supposed to do? Why does he get special treatment for that? We also are told about some conquests that Moshe made previously, back in Sefer B'Midbar and Devarim. Why are they mentioned here? That doesn't seem to have anything to do with the events that are taking place in the north. And finally, the Nevi tells us that Hashem hardens the hearts of the Jewish people in battle. Why would that be? Why would the Jewish people need to have their hearts hardened? When we've heard that phrase before back in Sefer Shemot with regard to Paro, that had a certain connotation, a certain suggestion of being stubborn, of being difficult, of not giving in to orders. What does that have to do with the battles that are taking place here? And is that actually what that phrase means? These are some of the questions that we'll talk about when we get back together in class. Looking forward to studying more of the 11th and 12th chapters together with you when we return.